Let's quickly review the patterns that we've just looked at in propositional logic. First one, the direct form of inference, modus ponens. If P then Q, P therefore Q. We see the diagram over there on the left. If P is true, then Q is true. And we also know P is true, it's green, therefore Q is also true. If the president's in the White House, then the president's in Washington, D.C. The president is in the White House. We can conclude from that the president is in Washington, D.C. The next one, modus tollens, or indirect inference, sometimes known as MT. If P then Q, so the circle with P has to be all times when P is true or times when Q is true. Not P, so everything is red in the Q circle. That is, so the true things have to be outside of that. But therefore not P, because the not P is in there. An example of this inference, one that will remind us of the inference. P is going to be the president's in the White House. Q, the president's in Washington, D.C. If the president's in the White House, he's in D.C. The president is not in Washington, D.C. He's outside of Washington, D.C. He has to be out of the White House. The president's not. And then we have finally, we have the chained inference, hypothetical syllogism. If P, then Q. If Q, then R. Therefore, if the first one, if P, then the third, then R. And we see the circles, going out from the circle every time P is true, it's a time when Q is true. Every time Q is true, R is true. So there are our basic inferences. And we now see the analogy. Let's just take one more look between the predicate logic patterns. All A's are B's, X is an A, therefore X is a B. Kind of moving from left to right in the first premise. Modus ponens. If P, then Q. P, we go to the right. Q, direct inference. All A's are B's. We're on the indirect inference now, I should mention. All A's are B's. X is not a B. Therefore, well, if it's not a B, it can't be an A. Therefore, it's not an A. Indirect inference. Modus tollens. If P, then Q. Not Q. Therefore, not P. And guys, the order is very important, because if we screw up the order and we flip around the second premise and the conclusion, we end up with invalid inferences. So be very, very, very careful. And the chained inference, all A's are B's, all B's are C's, therefore all A's are C's. No, all dogs are mammals, all mammals are animals, therefore all dogs are animals. If P, then Q, the chained inference on the if-then side, hypothetical syllogism. If P, then Q, if something's a dog, then it's a mammal. If Q, then R, if something's a mammal, then it's an animal. Therefore, if P, if something's a dog, then that thing is an animal. So notice, basically, if we can remember those three predicate inferences that were good, direct, indirect, and chained, we now know the basic three inferences of propositional logic as well. We can just kind of translate from an all are to an if then.